Welcome to the Mind Body Energy Project.
Whoop, whoop. I didn't know what to do.
Hey, that was the best way to start the show today.
Yeah, I felt it in my soul, so I just let it come out.
I love you.
I love
As you
you.
should.
Thank you.
I should put on my priestess necklace, but I don't feel like it. How are you doing today, Tiffy?
Great question. I think I'm all right. It's been a weird week.
Yes.
That full moon in Scorpio was very, very intense.
Yeah.
Very, very intense.
It had, it's funny you say it's been a weird week. I'm like, can you even tell nowadays?
I know.
Yeah. But what did emotional stuff come up for you? Were you just like foggy minded? What happened?
Emotional stuff, which is, tends to be normal with me, but focusing energy, like trying to get energy stable and focused was a near impossibility this week. And it was like everything was a challenge, or when I was like, okay, that's a challenge, I'm going to move away from that and do this other thing.
Yeah.
That other thing became a new challenge, or I was just like, I don't know what to do.
Right. Well, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
How was the week for you before?
How was the week before? I don't know. I'm moving differently. It's interesting. In this space in these last couple of months, I just feel like my general process has been different.
Yeah.
I've been way more lax with myself about like if I get this done now or if I just leave it for tomorrow. Like before I was so rigid about like, no, don't leave this desk until you've checked all the boxes. Where now I'm like, meh.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later.
It's kind of nice. We talked about that last part in our revival podcast.
Yeah. So that's just it. I mean, just my process feels different, and my sleep patterns, like I was telling you before, have been odd. I don't know. I think I've just kind of accepted that this space right now feels very Twilight Zone-ish. I'm just going with it. I'm just like, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
It's kind of a breath of fresh air to some degree, isn't it? Dare I say it? But if we're going to look at the other side of the coin,
yeah,
it's kind of nice to some degree.
I think it's interesting.
Very interesting.
It's showing me that I am capable of functioning outside of my normal pattern.
Yeah.
And functioning in ways I probably would have never considered or allowed, and still I'm standing. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I think before I would have thought the world was going to stop if I didn't function the way that I had just become accustomed to. So yeah, it's interesting to see that we really can come out of routine. We really can drastically come out of patterns and still figure out we're so adaptable anyway, right?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's been interesting just to be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
And to see that things don't fall apart if we don't stick to the same routine.
Right.
And that things can maintain as they are.
And that we can survive the discomfort.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, initially, and we may have talked about this before, it really threw me for a loop to be thrown out of my morning routine, because I would get up every morning, 6 a.m., go get coffee, go to Starbucks. That was my time to like listen to podcasts, just be in my own space before I interacted with the world, right? It was ritual every morning. So then to not have that at all, it really was uncomfortable and aggravating for the first couple of weeks, because I was like, what do I do with myself?
Yeah.
So I had to create a new motivation to get up that early, which I did. And, now I have a new routine.
It's like growing pains, we grow out of our old shoes when we're younger, and we have to change them, but new shoes aren't as comfortable as the old ones. But if we don't get new shoes, we're going to outgrow the ones that don't fit, and that becomes painful, right? So
why did you bring this up?
I don't know. Why?
There were these shoes.
I just saw it in my brain. So
they were my favorite shoes. Did you not have something that you grew out of that you were pissed when you grew out of it because your parents said it was too small and you did not want to give it up, like you were attached to it?
I don't recall that ever happening.
Well, I recall there was a pair of shoes.
I think I grew out of things so quickly all the time that it was just like a non-issue.
I clearly haven't recovered. Those shoes were everything to me.
Oh my God, what kind of shoes were they? Tell us what they looked like.
I feel like if I describe them, you might judge me.
Never.
But they were like, when you're young and you just have like fancy shoes. They would be like the shoes that maybe you would wear on Easter or something. You know what I mean?
Were they white or black or red?
White. They were white.
Were they Mary Janes?
Huh?
Were they Mary Janes?
No, but I loved my Mary Janes. But they were white and they had like a little peep toe with like a little bow kind of leather. It was like a leather knot, like near the top of the.
I see it. Oh my God.
And then it had like these little pinholes all over the shoe. That gave it texture. Yeah. And very 80s looking. Think Madonna like a virgin.
Yes, I see them.
Yep. That was a
So
day.
You grew out of them and you had to give them up.
Yes.
So the choice was you had to let that thing go that you loved because eventually they were going to become painful.
Listen, I think I would have went for the pain. It's just my mom didn't give me the option. Honey, I would have stuffed my foot in those things.
I feel like this is a really good analogy for what the universe is doing for us right now. Mm-hmm. It's pushing us out of our shoes that we think are comfortable, but are no longer going to be comfortable, at least not anywhere in the near future, because we've outgrown it. We've outgrown these routines and this paradigm, and it's very uncomfortable to break in this new paradigm. But attachment. It's time.
Yeah. The attachment to what's familiar. I mean, it's a tough one. I mean, we could go down a rabbit hole on that, right? I mean, people stay in relationships that aren't necessarily healthy for them because they're just familiar. Like we stay in a lot of uncomfortable situations. Mm-hmm. I stayed at my old corporate job that was borderline killing me, but it was familiar. It was familiar.
Yeah.
So yeah. It is kind of like this has been in a lot of ways like a tower moment where we really don't have the option to hold on to what no longer serves us because like a lot has been ripped away.
Yes.
And this is not even what we plan to talk to you about today.
I love how that happens.
Yeah. We'll just consider this an intro.
Right. We'll go back, listen to this and spin off another podcast around this topic. Yeah. Take two of this intro. But what we really intended today was to talk about words.
I was taking an awkward pause so that I can edit this. I can stop it, put it in something, and transition into our real topic.
Got it. Did I ruin the pause?
You did not. I will find this pause. So now that we're back on the other side of the rainbow,
yes.
Let's talk about words.
That was very Sesame Street-esque, and I wanted to follow it up, but I couldn't find in my brain how it would sound.
No, why would you even want to go to the other side of the rainbow? Why is the pot of gold always on the other side? Why isn't it ever on the side you're on? Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
because somebody is on the other side.
Well, one, it's an illusion that a rainbow actually ends because really they're circular.
Oh, whoa. Hold on. Oh my gosh. If you all are new to the Mind Body Energy Project, meet Tiffany. This is why I love you.
Yeah. Thank you for loving me. Somebody's got to.
Oh my God. I was just looking for Lucky Charms and I came across Bill Nye the Science Guy. That's all right. It's okay. So words.
The question to me.
You know. We are on one today.
I know.
Man. Cute. Wow. Okay, so what we wanted to talk to you about today is words. And we wanted to talk about it from a lot of different angles. And as you can see, we will have no problem going across the board. But I have to say, one of the things that why words have come up for me lately is because, as you know, I've been doing the daily Reiki every morning with a group of people. And when we start the day and we start with the Reiki Gokai and we talk about Kotodama, and Kotodama in Japanese is like word spirit. And it's the idea that there's like a soul to words. And when we have certain words, they carry a certain intentionality, a certain power, a certain magic, right? And it's interesting because we have talked about before, you and I, maybe even on this podcast, spell casting. I even taught a whole class about it. And really considering the power of our words and what we say and the implication of what we say, right? So we wanted to talk to all of you today just to consider what's falling out of our faces, but also the words that we're exposed to, whether in music, books, conversation. What does this do to us?
Yeah. And even just to kind of create the outline, not to dive completely off the subject, but mantras too. Mantras are used just for the actual vibration of the sound and what it does to the energy of you, your intangible energy and your tangible energy, which is the matter. Like just the vibration of a sound shifts things. So when we use words and language that actually helps us to articulate and relate something to somebody else, words are like an extra added layer on top of just a simple vibration. So being mindful and noticing too, like how do words actually feel? Like my brain and my ears are processing to my brain, or my brain is processing the vibrations hitting my ears, but the language is actually another layer of meaning on top of just a simple vibration. So if we not only hear and process the language that we understand, but also if we use our body and our senses to feel what the words are doing to our energy is just as important.
Well, you say that, it reminds me of, like what happens if someone yells at you and the way it makes you feel. And it like, you could completely bypass what the words actually were. It's just the tonality that like gut punches you, like someone just threw like an energetic like bomb at you, or just on the opposite side of that, someone can greet you and their kindness and sweetness and their excitement to see you, perhaps the way that whatever they're conveying is expressed can make you feel like, a warm hug. But dang it all to heck. My mind just went blank on this word. Of course, there's something else you just reminded me of, because that's what you do.
Well, at least I serve a purpose, so that's good.
Honey, your purpose is something kind of amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Well, there's a word also, and I just wanted to remember what it translates as, and I can't remember exactly. So I was trying to find it. It's called Shingon, and it's also, I think it means true words. I don't know. Anyway, I'll Google it while you're carry on.
Carry on.
It reminds me of, because what you were saying about mantras. That's why.
Yeah. Well, mantras, if we're going to get back down to the origin of everything, Om is the sound, legend has it, that created the entire world. And it's not just the OM sound of Om, but AUM. So if you actually like Aum, if you allow those, how the A, the U, the M sound, like if you really go through the vibration of that, how your body manifests that sound by way of vibration, it's very intense.
So yes, and the word is Shingon that I was trying to find. It means true word, but it's also the word in Japanese for mantra. But I thought that was interesting too, the translation to mean true word. Like, I mean, we could go down the rabbit hole, but it was in this book, Foundations of Reiki Roho by Nicholas Pearson. That's where it came from. But I had to Google because I couldn't find it in the book fast enough. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. Our intention, the words we choose, how we say it, but even more so, paying attention to what we say over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, which is an odd thing, but we do tend to have certain things that we just echo again and again, even if they're fillers, which I came to find out about myself and was horrified after podcasting, because it will highlight for you what you say over and over again.
Right.
Goodness gracious, talk about being programmed.
This is kind of opposite. I had to do, when I was working in corporate, we had to go to trainings every year, and the trainings would be different, like what we would work on, but also like kind of personal development stuff. And one of them was a speech class, and we had to stand up and give like a 3-minute speech, which was horrifying to me. Like how I'm presenting on this podcast is very different from when I'm formally having to stand up in front of a group of people. It's terrifying to me. I do it out of duty, but when I'm being watched and judged, it feels awful. And on the forefront of my mind, my mind thought I was hearing myself say, which is usually a space filler. And usually we use, to allow time to think of our thoughts, or if we're uncomfortable, it's kind of a spacing to alleviate that discomfort. See, that wasn't purposeful. But I remember doing my speech, seeing what I had to say, and just waiting for the fallout of them being like, you said 56 times. And it turned out that I didn't say it at all, which was shocking to me, because I went into it thinking that I was going to be using a word such as a crutch. But because I was so mindful about the way I was articulating in that speech, I didn't, but my brain still thought that I was going to lean on it. So
I think that's the key, what you just said, mindful.
Yeah.
Because what I've found is when I'm very grounded and I'm being mindful of what I'm saying, I don't say like a lot.
Yeah.
But if I'm just kind of all over the place and not really grounded in my person and not being as mindful about my words, I will drop like 5 million times and I can't stand it. And again, I had no idea until, podcasting, great mirror. Right. But I was so surprised at how many times I say like, depending on the space that I'm in.
Yeah. That's more of my crutch as well, is the word like, and that's so obnoxious because I don't even know how that word came to be.
California.
But we didn't grow up in California.
Yes, but we've been here long enough. I think it's like one of those things when you have been around a person enough, you've been around an environment enough, you just pick things up.
Do you think we didn't do this on the East Coast?
I do not believe so, no.
You don't?
No.
Be really interesting.
I don't believe that anyone on the East Coast did it until the Kardashians came about.
Oh, no.
I'm serious. No, I mean that wholeheartedly. I really believe it's true.
I believe you do, and I love that conspiracy. It's so funny to me.
Like became global because of the Kardashians. Before it was just a California thing.
Why is it a California thing?
I don't know. Maybe it was a surfer thing.
Interesting.
Maybe they were.
There's sometimes I hear
a little butt around at the beach in their surf suits, like whoa, and it was like
just trying to describe the feeling of what the bud was doing,
right?
Or the wave, how the wave.
It was
felt.
Culture. It was California culture.
Interesting. There's some times where I try to stop myself from saying the word like, and I just can't find another word that will do what that word is doing.
But it's not even necessary. The word. What does it do? It's a stalling point. Because I was thinking
yeah.
What?
So what if I were to say something
like
such as to describe how someone was behaving? She was like,
yeah. It works, even though, I mean, technically it might be a good exercise to just completely drop that word from your vocabulary.
Maybe just drop it. And then how people are going to start receiving it. Then I'm going to sound like a weirdo to them because the expectation of that word being that transitional word somehow.
No, I don't think anybody would miss it.
Okay, I'm gonna see. I'm just gonna drop it out.
Let's drop it. We probably can't even get through this conversation.
I know. Let's see if we can't.
Yeah. But how about this? This is one thing I really think that we don't think about enough is like the mood of words. Because, you know, when you hear love, like you automatically, like it triggers something like, ooh, ushy gushy. Now, you may or may not like ushy gushy, but just hearing the word may send you there, right?
Yeah.
And I was telling you, I was looking down on my floor. I have a couple of books of Rumi poetry there. Or I remember if I was going through something and I wanted to feel moody, I would listen to Fiona Apple.
Yeah.
Or if I wanted to feel like inspired or energized, I would listen to Prince, you know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the music, but it was the words, their lyrics that really kind of, yeah. And I think of like motivational speakers, like, yeah, there's something to the energy behind the words. The way they say it just makes you want to, yes, I can conquer the world.
Yeah.
But there's so much intention in their delivery, not just the words they choose, but the delivery, that impact that they give you.
It's interesting because there is a song, I don't have a lot of songs on my iTunes on my phone. You know, U2 put their whole album on there, which pissed me off. But then
I just deleted that the other day.
How do you delete it? I have to figure out how to do that.
I'll show you.
Okay, great. But I only have like, other than that album, I may only have like 8 or 7 songs on my iTunes that's on my phone for whatever reason. And one of them was it's a Slipknot song.
I don't know what that is.
I know some people might just give you a little more insight to who I am. And I was listening, it just like popped up on my phone because whenever I was listening to a podcast ended and it just went into my iTunes, and I was listening to this song and it took me to this place where I was like, yes, I feel this emotion that you're putting out. Like, yes. And it was, and then I was listening to the words and I'm like, the words were making me feel something, and then I was listening to the chords because I'm trying to learn to play guitar. So I was like, these chords sound like this might be an easy song for me to learn. So I was like, I'm going to see if I can learn this. But then as I was listening to it more and more, I'm like, these songs are making me feel something. And I feel like this is a good song to learn. But then when I was really listening to the actual words of it, I'm like, now, if I learn this song and then I learn to sing it and then I'm playing it for my friends, it's going to completely contradict who I put out as a person, you know, like being positive or like leaning into the energy of things and, you know, not just positive to give a false sense of reality, but a knowingness that how we manage our energy is what we're going to experience. So that I'm like, but if I'm going to lean into these words that are making me feel this way, even though it feels good, but the words are painting a different picture, you know? So if I don't want to call it hypocritical, but there is some part of my brain that was like, that's a little bit hypocritical.
But I think there are some words or some things that we may not think of them as necessarily positive, but they're necessary mirrors for us. And they speak to the core of what we've experienced, and they start to pull our truth out of us, you know?
Yes.
I think it actually helps us in a lot of ways because then we know we're not alone in whatever the experience may have been. And then for, say, someone like you can let that come up and out, but then also observe it and go, but how am I handling whatever this thing is?
Right. That's actually what I did tell myself. I'm glad you brought it up because hypocritical was the incorrect word. What I was finding is that when I was taking a look at it, I was like, oh, it's drumming up this stuff that I'm identifying with. But my prefrontal cortex was like, but there's a reconciliation between what you know and what you're allowing these words to make you think.
Right.
You know, so the reconciliation between the two.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's very mindful of you.
Thank you.
No, I mean, really, truly, because, you know, and I think that's an interesting thing. I think anyone even have in mind, like, how do certain words impact you? Again, whether it's lyrics in a song, it could be a book. That's one thing. I was going to talk about incantations, but we can circle back to that. But books, it is amazing to me the arrangement of words and how the flow, it's like there's such a gift, a talent in being able to arrange words in such a way that it makes them more ingestible, or it makes them more, easier to tune into. Whereas when people put words in a particular way, it could be completely off-putting. Like you can't even hear the message. You can't even take whatever. It's just because of their choice of words, how they arrange them. It's interesting, because I think there's something about that also talks to the power of words.
Yeah.
And like how you really could become a wordsmith, not in just how articulate you are, but again, like how you arrange and craft. And it makes me think of now kind of looping into incantation. And if you can get the right words and put them in the right order, you could really probably do some really powerful, potent stuff,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, two things. Hope I don't forget both of them. When you said impact, that was kind of something too that I struggle with sometimes, not myself. Like that example of the song and the guitar is that we formulate our words, hopefully mindfully, knowing that it will impact somebody somehow, versus leaning into things that if we're just leaning into our feelings or our thoughts and we're being mindless about what we're putting out, there's still an impact with that as well. And is how we're using our words and our energy, what kind of impact is it creating that is going to create a reverberation around us?
And that's the thing, right? Because you can't not create an impact.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't not. So it's, heck yeah, you want to be mindful of the type. And I think sometimes we are, right? Like, again, when we're present and in our being. So I think of the times where you may be so angry and you're just reactionary and you are spewing fire. And while there's a part of you that intends to, because you want to annihilate the person that you're spewing these words at, perhaps, there's an intention behind that. And you're doing that, right? But like you said, there is going to be repercussion. And then on the other hand, I think of when we try to uplift each other, or we speak in a very certain way to get our point across. It's just so interesting. The crafting of words, the sound, how we say it, pregnant pauses, all of it. I mean, it just seems like there's such a gift in this mode of communication.
They are. They're also very much a tool as well. And I think it's important to be mindful. What? Am I going down that road we talked about before?
No, I was just thinking, I wonder if people only enjoy our conversations if they are in an altered state.
I love that. I love that thought so much.
Because here we are, completely sober, but we have some conversations that seem like
that's right.
We are in altered states.
True. It's true.
But anyway, sorry. What were you saying?
The other side of it is that if we're not mindful of not just our words or how we're using them, but what our own personal experience has been and is, and if we're not dissecting that to put our best foot forward as humans or to go through our own process, then we can use words very dangerously too, because it can become a manipulative or survival mechanism that we might not even be aware of, which is very dangerous.
And sometimes full blown aware. Like you
right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is some people are very crafty and gifted. You say, oh, they have the gift of gab. What? You're basically saying they have a gift of like getting what they want, manipulating things by using their words in a particular way. Some people, some people just mean they're just talkative. Okay, it's fine. But yeah, absolutely. And you remind me of, someone was just asking me the other day about tarot. And basically, they're aware that there are people in their life that have some judgment around it and thinking and viewing the cards as evil. And that was one of the examples I gave of like, the cards are cards, right? And anything in this world can be used in any particular way depending on the user, the same as words. Like we could use words to uplift, we could use words to harm. Like it's really up to the person that is doing it. But I think to your point, sometimes we are unaware. I remember one time someone who was very close to me told me that my words made them feel a particular way that I was shocked. I was like, what? I mean, I would have had no idea. It was not my intention. Not even a little bit, but we also have to consider like knowing our audience type of situation.
Right.
And really having that awareness as well. I mean, just the impact I had on the one person brought me into being more mindful about how I say, to whom I'm speaking, all of these things, because yeah.
Mama ain't got time for that.
You are making an impact.
Yeah. I was smirking when you brought up the tarot cards, the perspective on tarot cards, because of that meme that I sent you. I just
Which one?
Share,
you sent so many funny ones.
Share it with everybody because it's so very funny. It's a picture of a couch, a sectional couch, and in the middle of it, there's a big rug, and it looks like a Ouija board.
Oh, yes, yes.
And then it says, "It looks great until the Roomba summons a demon."
Yes. No, that was
funny.
A funny one.
It's too funny.
That is a really funny one.
But I get a good giggle out of people's interpretations of tarot as well.
Yeah. Well, interestingly though, I mean, Ouija, that is one, I don't mess with that. I don't. I remember growing up, my friend had one. And I don't remember playing with it, but I remember she had one. And then maybe when I was a teenager, someone brought a Ouija board to my house. Side note, which someone died in that house, and there were lots of things that happened in that house without the Ouija board. So imagine the Ouija board there, it was a situation. And since then, I was like, nah, I don't need to know nothing about a Ouija board.
Did you have a situation with a Ouija board in that house?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I mean, the thing, it really started moving by itself. And then, of course, you get like the chills up your spine. Like you just know there's a presence there. Like, nah, I didn't need any parts of that. Oh, and this was way before doing this work. So I had no point of reference of what was going on, you know?
Yeah.
No kids.
I had one, but I think my older brother just was always messing with me and trying to move it. So I never knew what the truth was.
Wait, I have to go back and ask you now. Books. I don't know how I got away from this, but certain authors. Because I took us on a complete tangent. We always do. Certain books I can read, and I'm glued, like I'm hooked onto every single word. I don't want to skip anything at all. Other books, I can't even get past the first page because I'm like, what is this? Some I have to skim through to get to, you know? Yeah. And again, it's just the way people arrange what they focus on. It's so, there's such a formula.
Yeah.
Right? To using words in a way to be intentionally impactful. But do you find that was my point? You read a lot too.
Totally. Yeah.
Are there certain books that you have that with?
I'm thinking one author in particular, and I don't want to say it out loud because I feel like it's going to offend a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it's, you know how sometimes there's just that person that you just don't align with at all. Mm-hmm. And so everything about it. So I think like that's just a good representation that words are a catalyst for your energy coming through, you know, because this author, tons of people love this author. And I'm just like, no, thank you. I read 2 of the books, and one of them, the second one I got duped into because it was a book club.
Oh.
It was a book club.
Okay.
And the cover was all cool and pretty, and I started reading it, and I was annoyed at like the first 4 pages. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so annoyed. And then I actually didn't recognize who the author was when I started reading it. I was just like excited about the book club, and the cover was like distracting and beautiful. And so then I started reading it. I was getting super annoyed, and then I closed it, looked at the author, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, but you have no chill. We have to be honest about this too, okay? You also have to match with your personality, because unless something is probably rooted in science and it is very clear, concise, to the point, I can't see you really having the patience for it.
Well, and that's the thing. I recognize I didn't have patience because I recognize also that she was writing for a different audience.
Mm-hmm. Your face is priceless.
We do record these video for anybody who's looking for the video.
Yeah.
If you're listening to simply just the audio. Yeah. Cool. We have to go back and look at that one.
But that's right. And I think that's also could help us in our own communication styles. I think sometimes we personalize when people misunderstand us, or we personalize when we have to or are asked to alter or modify our way of communication to appease someone else. But, it really does come down to what's the point in what you're communicating. If you're communicating something because you want to be understood and you want your point to come across, well, then you have to be mindful of the audience. And you may have to tweak the way that you're saying something so it can be received. Otherwise, it's just wasted words.
Right.
So what's the point?
It's interesting when I do Reiki with clients, or I teach about the chakra system. When I get to the throat chakra, I tell people it's the energy of communication, and it's how we communicate with others, which we know is always challenging.
But always challenging. I love communicating with you.
Oh no, I know. Oh. But I mean, just as humans, it's one of our biggest challenges is to learn how to communicate with other human beings, right?
Yeah.
And then I tell them, the next layer is like listening. How am I listening? Am I actually truly listening to what the words are that are coming out of somebody else's mouth? Mm-hmm. And then even deeper, and this is the one that I always see gets people when I say it, is that it's also about communicating with ourselves. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm understanding what my truths are and what my false stories are, and I'm really digging into that to understand who I am, it's going to change how I speak to other people. It's going to change how I listen to other people. So it will completely change how I articulate verbally my experience.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes complete sense. But what this is bringing up? Mercury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, that, for those of you, I'm talking about astrology, and the planet Mercury on all of our charts really points to our mode of communication, expression. And I have to say, when I started to study astrology, Mercury, the planet, was one that fascinated me the most because it gave me more compassion, more patience even with other people's style of communication. Because before I would just be aggravated, like, what is your problem? Why don't you understand the words coming out of my mouth? Like, why are you so emotional in your communication? Like, it was weird. It was almost like I couldn't comprehend that we would have different styles of communicate. You know what I mean? It was just like, your way makes no sense to me, does not compute, please shut that down. But once I started to understand, like my Mercury is in Capricorn, and there's someone very close to me who has Mercury in Pisces. So my way of needing information communicated to me, it needs to be clear, just get to the point, tell me what you want me to know, and then you can give me the fluff after. Well, this person, their way of communicating is very kind of, I don't know how to, if it's kind of dreamy, and it's rooted in feeling, and nothing is fully sticking and grounded in reason.
Are they in Pisces?
Yes, the Mercury is in Pisces. And so the point is, we have two very different communication styles, but because of studying that and understanding that we do all process in different ways, it allowed me to learn to be more forgiving and even more curious about how people communicate and how they're processing information. It seems like it's easier to accept when there's a reason behind it.
Yeah.
Well, for me anyway. What is your Mercury in?
That's what I was just trying to figure out.
Is it Libra?
But
you have Libra.
Is that
everything.
Mercury?
I can barely see.
A Mercury, that purple one.
Yes.
What
is it? Scorpio?
It's Scorpio, yeah. Does
Yep.
that make sense?
It makes all kinds of sense, especially for like how you like to go deep in investigating and researching every MFing thing. And then, no, like really, like you go, oh, listen.
No, I know.
You do.
I know. I know I do. It's too much sometimes. I
Yes.
get it.
No, but it's actually, it's perfect for some people. Like a lot of people, they want the truth that's at the bottom of the barrel. They don't care what's on the surface. And so that's really great. And then you have other people who want to dance on the surface and don't give a hell about what's in the bottom of the barrel. As my mom would say, it takes all kinds to make the world go round.
It does. It does. It does. My mom is constantly reminding me of that as well.
Mm.
As she's constantly also telling me, Tiffany, it's not that deep. And I'm like, yes, it is.
But it is.
I'm
Which is
down
funny
here.
because I tend to say that to people. And like when people are,
You tend to say what? It's not that deep?
it's not that deep. Yeah. Because let's say I say something and there's someone like you who does really take things like to heart and like on a whole nother playing field that I haven't even considered. I have a couple of friends that do this and they'll come back at me like, well, what did you mean by blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, what? I was just saying I like the color purple. Like I didn't, it wasn't that deep. Like that's.
I wouldn't go crazy on something like that.
No, I'm being facetious, but
I know.
they do. I mean, there are certain things where, yeah, people like I genuinely, it was not that deep for me. I don't even know what it is that you got your panties in a bunch about, but that's the beauty of, and the, oh, it's like the thorn in my side about our differences in communication and
Yeah.
use
Well,
of words.
I mean, we've talked about this and I still stand firmly behind it, is why astrology is such a great tool
Mm-hmm.
for meshing our human experiences with each other.
Heck yeah.
Right? Because we're so dynamic
Mm-hmm.
with so many infinite variables that our expectation in order to get our brain to understand it is to compartmentalize things into one place so that we're like, this is how it operates, you know?
Right.
And a lot of times that's our downfall.
Yeah, it is. And not to go too far into it, but you're reminding me of what we were speaking about a little bit before, of how in these times there's a lot of not even miscommunication. We just a lot of times don't hear each other. So words are just thrown around back and forth, but without the hearing component, it's like, what's the point? If you can't get your point across or be heard by your audience and the message is lost, we're pretty much in chaos because the communication has gone down the drain.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is very important, I think, for all of us to be mindful of not just the words that we use, the arrangement of words, our tone, our intent, but also being able to hear and being mindful and okay with, yes, you may need to alter your delivery a bit so that whatever it is you're trying to convey can actually be understood. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah. And it's interesting. I think it's really important that we're mindful about how communication is changing and how words are being used differently, because to some degree it's getting a little bit extinct, in the sense that we have
Emojis?
yes, we have emojis. And hear me out on this one too, not to not that there's anything wrong with it if this is your choice too, but even just like plastic surgery and like Botox and stuff.
Oh, what is this? How does it, what?
I'll tell you.
I thought you were going to bring in acronyms. I was like, yep, acronyms too. That's right. LOL.
No.
What? No.
But yes, that as well. I'll get on that one in a hot second. But like plastic surgery, right? So if we're getting like facelifts and Botox and all this stuff, there's muscles in our faces that are getting shifted and paralyzed or frozen. And the way we speak to each other is not just our words and the vibrations, But the what is so funny.
Just thinking, this is why I love you.
You're making me insecure.
This is why this is why I love you. And I think it's the perfect example of difference in communication styles.
But you know, if we don't have sound and we don't have words, we're reading people's faces, and there's millions of tiny little muscles and nerves in our face that give signals, you know, that like,
I got you.
Our reptilian brain was programmed to understand how to survive based on reading facial expressions, you know? And so like, we don't have that. And now we're now, especially in this time too, we're on computers. Like we can't even like feel each other's like in-person energy, you know,
totally.
Like communication's completely shifting. So to be mindful, not only of just the words that we use and how we use them, but all the different like angles of communication, that is so important.
Can I admit something?
Please.
And I hope no one judges me for this, but it's just the truth. And you made me think of it. So I was watching a show. It was The Housewives. Years ago, there was this particular housewife on the TV show, and she would always go like, like as if she was crying, right? But her face didn't move. So I was always so aggravated, like, why doesn't anybody call this lady out for fake crying all the time? Like, this is bananas. Like, she has no indication that she's crying. She's just making the sound. I was like, what is this? Do you know how long it took me to realize it was because of her Botox? And when I realized,
my God.
And then when I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, she really is crying. I thought she was faking. For like seasons, I thought this lady was faking.
Oh God.
So it finally occurred to me.
That
she
is really so funny. Crying. It's so funny.
Yeah. So there's that too. We have to now adjust the way that we read for facial expression because of things, because maybe someone, their face can't match what they're expressing.
Right. And now
that's not even being funny. That's like true story. Like I thought the lady was faking it and she wasn't.
Right. Yeah. And now for whoever knows how long, our mouths are going to be covered up. So we're only just going to have each other's eyes. And I kind of like, personally, I kind of love it. I'm like, oh yes, we're just going to be looking to everybody's souls now. Like there's no hiding your soul now. We're getting in there. But I do want to go back to the acronyms really quickly because I can't keep up with the kids. Like all of a sudden now, like an article on, I don't know, pop sugar or refinery 29, whatever, you know, like it's almost as if the article is written in just letters. And I'm like, how do I interpret this exactly?
No, there was the best one ever. The other day, it was just a few days ago, it was a meme that went around and the caption at top said, every Black parent will know what this is. And it was an acronym, but it was like a mile long, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, I know exactly what it was. So then I send it to my other friends, both white and Black. My Black friends, boom, knew exactly what the acronym was.
Oh my gosh.
We're like, I have no clue. What is it? And I was like, now that is funny because culturally too, that like that you could just look at letters, just look at it acronym and know what like that was fascinating.
I want you to send it to me and not tell me what it is.
I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Because I want to see if I can figure it out. Okay, great. But I was reading an article like probably about a year ago now. And I had to Google at least 3 times what these acronyms the author was using for this article because I had no idea. And then when I found them out, I was like, why don't they just write the words? Just write the words.
And it's like people can't even be bothered nowadays. I
know. It makes me sad. Like I actually do have like a deep mourning for the fact that we're misusing the English language right now.
Yeah. Oh, well, this is funny because sometimes now I will put LOL, but I will have to, sometimes I put literally, like I want you to know LOL, and then in parentheses, like, no, I'm truly laughing. Like I'm not just, you see the meme, do you?
Yeah, I got the first part already. It's a lot of letters.
Yeah.
I feel like I could figure it out. I already got the first part.
It'll be a cliffhanger. We'll let you know next time.
Yeah.
Able to decipher.
I don't want there to be a quintuplet pregnant pause while I'm trying to figure this out.
Right.
But I also don't want the
we'll follow up and let you all know if she got it. But yeah,
I'm
so
so excited.
it is very interesting. I mean, words, the funny thing about them is sometimes it's like, oh, those were just the right words. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Those words were like, those words in themselves, they were magic. They healed us. They inspired us. They motivated us. They whatever, right? And then there are times where, especially in this work, it's like there are no words. There is nothing to articulate what you were experiencing, what you were feeling. And then, even in that vein, it kind of comes down to, well, again, kind of like, what are words really about, And I watch a lot of things in other languages. And so I'm reading subtitles all the time. But what's more fascinating to me is the translations aren't always exact because we don't always have the same words in every language. And that too, the fact that we don't even have to use all the same words. Like, oh, there's even no translation for that in another language. What?
Right.
So you mean these words are not necessary?
Right.
Or why do we have 10 words that mean the same thing? That gets on my nerves. Like, why? Why?
I know, because really words are just descriptors of experience.
It's like, do people just sit around and go like, instead of saying I'm angry,
they might, one of my friends,
I'm enraged.
I have to tell you this one. One of my friends sent me something. I wish I could remember it, but it was, they were calling somebody cute and they referred to them as a snack.
Oh, this is a snack.
Yes. I wish I could remember exactly how it went because it was hilarious. But, the younger generations now, and I don't mean to sound old, but it's my soul. Yeah, it's my soul. It's my soul.
I was just trying to think if I'd want to be a snack. I think I'd rather be referred to like as a full-blown meal. Like, who she is, like, honey. She's like
but even that, like, how does that get interpreted, It
just depends. Like, I would interpret it as, like, depending on if they said it all sleazy, like, yeah, she looks like a snack. I mean, obviously I would think you want to give it to me. But if you said she's like a full course meal, I would think, man, there's some depth to that person. They must be like, that's a lot. It's a meaty Jew. Like, that's some good conversation over there.
Oh,
full course meal.
I see
fully entertained. No,
you just took this to no, I get you. But again, I don't think people are thinking about it that deeply.
It's not that deep.
It's not that deep, Yolanda.
Ah, dang.
It's not that deep, but I like where you're headed. We
should acronym that. NTD. Honey, hashtag NTD.
What's NTD?
Not that deep.
Oh. It's too hard. I just want to use the words.
If you didn't get the acronym for what just came out of your own mouth, you are never going to get that meme.
I wasn't being mindful about what was coming out of my mouth, apparently. It was just flowing out.
Yeah,
but that said, let's just take it to another degree, okay? Because you said earlier about, like, in this work, and if we're going to refer to Reiki, right? Like, sometimes things do come out of my mouth and I don't remember them. And people would be like, you said this to me years ago and it was very profound. I'd be like, I don't remember that. And I have a very good memory. Like, I don't forget things, but when we are when
you're letting words fall out of your mouth, when you're in a different state of consciousness.
Yes. Yeah. There was somewhere else I was going with that, but I forgot already.
Wait, well, I didn't say, so the reading things, the subtitles, other cultures, the words.
Yeah.
It's not just that some things aren't able to be translated, but it's interesting to watch the difference in expression. So it could be, I can't remember if it was French or I don't remember which culture, but it was like everything they said, the expression didn't match the way we would express it. Do you remember? Funny. You know what I mean? So that was interesting to me. Like, that's your response? Funny. That's how you react to those words? Like, what? That gave the words like a whole different context, whole different meaning. And I was like, wow. Now imagine that. Not only do you have the words themselves, but then even the cultural nuances and how things are expressed, it changes everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so fascinating. Well, I mean, I think that our point with this podcast is just to bring attention and awareness to being mindful about how we're communicating and utilizing the gift of language, essentially.
You know what this episode reminds me of?
Tell me.
The time where we were in my apartment talking about potentially doing podcasts, and we were sitting on the couch and we ordered plumeria. We ordered
It's
this
so
vegetarian
delicious.
food that's so good. We
Oh,
had
so
Postmated in
good.
food. We sat on the couch, turned on the video, and we were laughing, talking. It was just literally just videotaping a conversation with two friends sitting on a couch. That's what this felt like. Like, not like, there was nothing. Is there anything ever formalized about our conversations? I don't know.
No. And that's what I was going to say. We never know where it's going to go. It's always a
No.
journey.
Yeah.
It's always an unforeseen journey.
This is what you would experience sitting with us on a couch.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to our couch.
Welcome to our couch. Maybe we should change the name of the
I was just
podcast
going to
to
say that.
the spiritual couch.
The spiritual couch.
Maybe it would sound like therapy.
Yeah, maybe. Which this is not that. It
Not
could be
at all.
therapeutic, but this is not therapy.
It's not. Well, hopefully, if nothing else, you've enjoyed this journey with us.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you've had your own thoughts flittering about. Hopefully, you have smiled along the way.
Yes. And if you do have thoughts, let us know. Send us an email.
Yeah, we would love to hear about it.
MBE project11@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. You can even go to, probably just email us.
What were you going to say? Instagram? I was
going to say Instagram or Facebook, but the truth is we're really not that active on social media. And we've said for over a year, like, oh, we're going to be, but we never really got around to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, just send us an email and we will definitely respond.
And let us know if you want to hear any topic for us to go at on the couch here.
Yeah. Anything. Yeah.
Anything
at all. Okay,
yep.
Tiffy. Well, is that a wrap for today?
I think that's a wrap, Yo-Yo.
Okay. Thanks for sharing words with me.
Thank you for allowing me to consume your words.
Ooh. Poetic.
Thank you.
That was almost worse than being called a snack, though. I love you, Tiffy. Okay, bye, everyone.
Until next time. Goodbye.